Today I want to talk about a very specific and very important topic, which is how to pick a project. We've talked about this before. This is actually one of the questions that we get the most out of Discord, our community, our live streams. People are always asking, how can I pick the best project for my portfolio, for this, for that, how to pick a project. And today we're going to answer the question. Now, the first thing that you need to know about picking a project is that there are three types of projects. And today I'm going to be focusing mostly on the portfolio pieces or on your professional pieces to pick. But there's two other elements right here. By the way, this chart right here, we talked about this before. You might have seen it in an earlier video. I think this was last year. But I wanted to share it again because, again, we keep getting this question and I love to share this information. The first thing you need to know about picking a project is if it's going to be to learn something, then it really doesn't matter too much, but you do need to follow a couple of things right here, which is start with something simple and then build to something that's a little bit more complex. If it's just to have fun, if you just want to express, your love for a series, for a brand, for a specific, game or whatever, just do it. Just pick a theme, make sure to pick a time frame so that you finish it on time, and do it. It will showcase your skills, you're going to have fun, and it's just going to be a nice little project. But if it's going to be for a portfolio piece, this is where things get interesting. The first thing that I'm going to advise, and this is, I know, going to be a little bit of a controversial thing, please do not pick an AI project, okay? Do not pick an AI image and go for it. Right now, it's impossible to Google something. Like if I look for, I don't know, a fantasy warrior. Most of the first things that I'm going to see here on the front page of Google are going to be AI stuff. That's AI. That's AI. It kind of looks like AI, but maybe it's not. This is definitely AI. And unfortunately, a lot of these AI things will have really bad elements that are going to be very difficult to copy. I'm not saying they can't work. They might find, or you might find something specific that you're like, okay, I want to do a character like this. But there's so much more talent out there, guys. So much more talent on places like ArtStation, Kara, Pinterest, done from actual artists, that just going for an AI stuff, I don't have the heart or the, I don't know, the justification to tell you go for something like this. It's unfortunate, but you gotta filter these things out. You gotta try to find some stuff. There are some artists out there though that will use AI as a base and then do paint overs or do tweaks or things like that. It's a double-edged sword, but my advice as a professional here, I would strongly encourage you not to pick AI stuff, okay? Now, the next advice that I'm going to give you, and this is very, very important, don't pick a concept that has already been done in 3D, okay? This is very important. Super common case. Our good friend here, Thrall, right? I've seen so many different versions of Thrall. Some of them are good, some of them are really bad. And since we already have something to evaluate your result with, it's very complicated, especially when you're a beginner, to really grab a project that's going to allow you to fulfill that fantasy of creating something that's awesome. Again, especially when you're learning. So what's my advice? Because I know people are going to be like, oh, but I love World of Warcraft. I love, I don't know, League of Legends. I love this. I love that. And I really want to do something about that game or with that game in mind. Do it. But here's my advice. Go for the concept books, okay? Go to the concept art books of things like, again, League of Legends, World of Warcraft, and you're going to see a lot of unused concept arts. Things that they thought about, they planned for, but maybe for whatever reason there was not enough time, or they just didn't manage to get all the way to the final part of the production pipeline. This is an excellent example here. I've seen so many Frostmourne depictions throughout the years. Some of them are really bad, the topology is not working, the forms are not there, the proportions are not right, and it might be a little bit easier for you to nail a really nice concept that hasn't been seen before, right? So look at this hammer right there. That's a very awesome hammer that someone could do, and I don't think I've ever seen a portfolio with this specific hammer. So finding all of these weapons, all of this armor pieces, all of these informations or characters, again, from any games, it could be Elden Ring, God of War, Wukong, anything that you find interesting, you can go again stylized. So anything that you find in art books could be used for your portfolio as a piece that shows that not only can you follow a production ready concept, but also that your execution is going to be really good. So don't do things that are super common, especially if you want your portfolio to sort of like again shine through and be seen, right? Like really stick out on the front page. If you do something that we've seen a million times, then a lot of people are just gonna skip through it. Like I really like this render right here from Marika, but I've seen so many Marika renders and so many Elden Ring fanners that I'm not even gonna click it. I'll probably click on this one though, because this one looks very cool. This Golden Lion King by a name that I cannot pronounce. This is a very, very cool concept. Definitely a little bit more stylized, but look at this. This is amazing. This is really, really good. It's a 2D piece. I haven't seen anyone done this. It's a very recent piece, right? So I haven't seen any 3D artists actually try doing a character like this. So that's great. And here's another advice. If you find a piece that you really like, always click on the artist profile, because if you click on the artist profile, you're gonna find a bunch of different similar things that you might be able to use for another concept. So for instance, this one right here, if you want to do like a League of Legends character, this is something that looks very, very nice, very stylized, very interesting. This one right here also looks quite nice, and you're gonna be able to find things that might not show on the front page. So anytime you find an artist that you really like, make sure to follow it, of course, or him or her, and make sure to check what other stuff they have. Now, here's a pro tip. If you find a 3D piece, because this can happen, and it happens to me quite a bit, you might find a 3D piece like this one right here. This one looks very nice. This is 3D, of course. It's a very, very cool concept. And if you find something and you are wondering how they did that, write a message, guys. Here, for instance, to Anton Krasko, I could just write a comment and say, hey, Anton, this looks very cool. I really like the design. How did you do, I don't know, the chains? Did you create your own chain brush, or did you download a specific chain brush for ZBrush, right? Those kind of questions, I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to get answered, but those kind of questions, most artists out there are more than fine to just say, hey, yeah, this is the brush that I use. There's the pack here, or I created my own link and then just did an IMM brush. So asking questions is always a good way to get some nice information. But please, and this is very important, guys, please, if you're going to ask questions online, make sure those questions are not questions that you can find an easy answer in other ways, right? So for instance, if I see this one right here, that again looks very, very nice, I'm not sure if it's, oh, this is 2D. Don't ask the question as, what brushes are you using? What software are you using? All of that information you can find relatively easy online. Are they using Photoshop? Are they using Procreate? Are they using any other things? So make sure that when you're asking a question, that is not a question that can be answered quickly with a Google search. The more specific you are with your questions, the more, I would say, especially talking from experience, the more encouraged I am to answer them. So when I get the questions like, oh, what software did you use for this character? I'll answer ZBrush, but that's it. But if someone says, hey, how are you managing the forms between, I don't know, the shoulder and the bicep? I always struggle with that. It's like, oh, that's a very good question. That's a cool question. It's a good question, and I'm gonna be more than happy to answer it. That's for me personally. But again, in my experience, most people out there will have that sort of like a drive to help you out if the question is a good and smart question. Okay, so that's the first, or I think that's like the third like option for how to pick a project. So make sure there's no AI. Make sure to pick something that has not been done in 3D before, and make sure to look for concept pieces within the artist like a gallery. So for instance here, Labros Paunios. Look at this, amazing concepts as well. Very fantasies-like, stylized. I really like them. And if we click on his profile, we're gonna find so many more. His work on World of Warcraft, his work on the, I'm not sure if League of Legends or something, but look at this. Look at how many cool projects there are here that you could use as inspiration for your next portfolio piece. So the next thing, and we're gonna use his work right here, our good friend Labros. We're gonna use Labros as an example. A very common issue that I see is that people will pick very complex projects, especially when you're a beginner, okay? So it's not the same thing for you as a beginner to pick something like, let's say, this one right here, this like skull demon, that's mainly anatomy, a couple of props, and some effects there on the hair, than it is to pick something like this, right? This volcano demon that has not only that, but more props, chains, the proportions are way more exaggerated. So if a student comes to me and they're like, hey, I want to pick a project, and these are the two options that I have. I got this volcano demon, and I got this other one right here, the skull demon. I'll probably tell them, hey, pick something simple first. Like something like this character right here is a little bit easier as your first couple of characters. And then once you get the confidence and the experience to do something more ambitious, then we can jump to something more ambitious. By the way, I'm definitely going to save Labros here because he's got some amazing stuff as well that I'm probably going to be using soon. Of course, by asking permission. That's a great question. I often get asked, should I ask someone permission to do the concept? It's good etiquette to say, hey, Labros, I saw this picture of yours. I want to do it for a student project or for my portfolio. Would you be okay with that? Again, 99% of artists, especially 2D artists or illustrators, are more than fine because it's really good for them to see how their design gets transferred into 3D. So most of them are going to be sure, it's fine. If they tell you, no, I don't want you to do it, well, then again, there's multiple other artists out there that you can reference for your work. So don't push it, of course. However, there's a very important distinction, and I've done this with the stuff that we've done for the premium courses. If you're gonna be making money out of something, you definitely have to ask for permission or buy the concept piece from them, like buy the rights to use them as part of a production. So if you're gonna do your own game, let's say you want to do your own game, it's like, oh, I want to do my own game and I really like this character right here. He's gonna be like the main character of the game. Well, you can't do that, right? Like you cannot just take a concept and claim that it's yours and start doing your own game. That's not how it works. So make sure you're always safe. Again, for portfolio purposes, as a student, even as a professional, as long as you're not making money out of it, 99% of times you're not gonna have an issue using a concept from someone else. You should always credit the artist, okay? So always add a little bit of a notation. This was done by, or the design was done by this artist, and this is the inspiration. Let's move on to the next one. And this is what I like to call the coolness barrier, okay? So this is a great concept piece here by Huri Art. And unfortunately, I probably wouldn't recommend any of my students to use this as their piece. Why not? Because it's very complex, okay? This is something that's gonna take you at least, I would say, 2 months to do, like, right through the whole process, right? High poly, low poly, retopo, UVs, textures, render, all that stuff. It's gonna take a long time. If you have that time, going back to the little like chart that we have right here, if you have the time to go through that process, go for it because it's gonna be an amazing piece. Normally, when I'm working on the universities, we have 1 month, so it's 4 weeks or 6 weeks per project. So we can't really afford to have such a complicated piece like this one. Now, what to do? You really like this. You really want to do this knight because this is what you love. Do a piece of it. Maybe do the sword. Maybe do the helmet. Maybe do a bust of the character. That can help. But to be honest, especially from all of the portfolio reviews that I've done, it definitely looks better if you have a full character, even if it's not as complex as this one. So again, let's go here to Huriart, and we might see a couple of them. No, these are all very complex. Like I would say these are like very advanced characters. If you have the time, again, if you're gonna really spend a good amount of time on them, these are great concepts, by the way. These are very clean. But the amount of stuff that they have, this would not be recommended, or I would not feel comfortable recommending this to someone that's just starting their journey. This is something for someone who has been doing this for at least a couple of years now, okay? So, yeah. That would be the next advice, okay? Make sure you don't pick things that are extremely complex, like have a lot of stuff going on. And the opposite also applies. Make sure you don't pick things that are very simple. This is a great shield here by Mikhail, and I'm not sure if this is 3D. It says ZBrush, so it's maybe like a paint over or something. But I've seen so many of this, guys, and this is such a big mistake on portfolios. If you're doing a project that takes you 1 day, 2 days to do, most of the times it's not gonna be portfolio worthy. It's really good for your socials. It's really good for maybe your blog. Do people have blogs anymore? It's very good for your Instagram, for your Twitter, like stuff like that. But it might not be great for your portfolio. I'm not saying it's not great here for Mikhail because he's showing illustration things. It's not the modeling things. But I really encourage for people not to pick very simple projects, okay? If you do a simple project for an actual studio, like if you're already working and hey, you had to do a barrel and you did a freaking amazing barrel with all what's the word, like I'm struggling now with English. By all means, show it. For instance, this one right here. This is Darina Jevstisnievia, I think, and she did this very cool shoulder pad for Wayfinder. That's fine. I would never recommend a student to just do a shoulder part for their portfolio, but this is portfolio from actual like studio work, right? Like she's actually doing this for a project. So this is fine because usually in the studio, there's a bunch of other people's. So you might be doing small things that you should definitely showcase on your portfolio, okay? But again, if you're a student, if you're picking a portfolio piece for your, or if you're picking a concept piece for your portfolio, don't go for something that's gonna be very simple, okay? I've seen things like barrels, boxes, just an axe or just a hatchet. Unless you're doing that object to like a really high degree of like precision, either hand painted texture or PBR, doesn't really matter. In those cases, fine, but you gotta make sure that it's like something like this. Like this is great. Like in this case, this is Semyon Kabak, and he did this stylized axe, right? This is a good project. It showcases a little bit of like hand-painted textures, good topology, stuff like that. So this is a good project. But if you're not going to be doing it to that level of cleanliness, then it might not be the best option for you. Now, this might sound very obvious, but you wouldn't believe how many people I found that have a similar issue. If you want to do something like this, right? Like this is a very whimsical, cool character. I really like this one as well. This is a very fun project, I think. And then you tell me, I want to work on Call of Duty. The projects don't really match, right? I know he's showing a shooter here or something like that, but the style of the projects you pick has to be aligned with the kind of work you want to do. Okay, that's a very good advice that I got when I was a student, which is never upload something to your portfolio that's not something that you would be comfortable doing. Okay, so if you don't want to do stylized stuff, don't upload stylized work. If you don't want to do realistic stuff, don't upload realistic stuff. If you don't want to do creatures, don't upload creatures. If you don't want to do environments, don't upload environments, because the worst thing that could happen is that you upload one of those things and then people start reaching out to you to do that kind of work, and then your portfolio gets filled with more and more of that stuff, and you're gonna feel quite miserable, right? Doing stuff that you really didn't want to do because that's sort of like the career that you took due to the choices that you made on your portfolio. So be very, very careful on the kind of like projects that you put on your portfolio or the kind of projects that you pick, because it's very, very important that you always tailor your portfolio to the kind of stuff that you want to do. This kind of stuff is really cool. Like right now, I know the Joker 2 movie is like really a mess, but if you like Harley Quinn, instead of doing Harley Quinn, doing something like this would be a very good option. Look at this. There's even more concepts here. Very, very cool concepts that Ivan Otsyumov, I think I've seen his work before, is publishing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, love this dwarf. Oh, this is so cool. Very, very nice. Love it. So this is what I always encourage you guys to do. Explore. Look for all of these ideations. And I don't want to make this video extremely long, so hopefully all of these things are helping you. But there's one more thing that I want to talk about, and this was again asked in one of our past live streams. What if I don't want to do a concept? What if I want to design something myself? Where can I get inspiration from? Again, all of these things are very good inspirations, but I'm going to give you 3 more places where you can get inspiration. The first one is, of course, nature. So go out there, guys. Literally, go out there. Go to the mountains. Go to the forest. Find inspiration in nature, in animals. Look at these little birds right here. Very, very cool. You can think about a creature that has these colors. You can think about a creature that has this silhouette. So finding inspiration in the real world is very, very important. Books are another one. Reading, like actually reading and training your imagination to visualize things, is a very good way to generate or to exercise that creative muscle that's going to allow you to invent or design more interesting things. And finally, this is very, very important as well, other medium. What do I mean by this? When we're doing 3D art, or we're doing entertainment art in general, we tend to think about movies, video games, books, films, comics. That's the only things that we think about. But if we start asking ourselves questions such as, what are they doing in other fields, like architecture, right? I know there's going to be some AI stuff here as well, but architecture has some really, really interesting shapes that you could use for an environment. If we go, for instance, to woodworking, right? Like there's people out there doing really, really intricate like woodworking designs for like statues and like look at this chair. It's a very cool chair, right? So you can find a lot of really, really interesting inspirations in other things. Try to open your mind to other experiences, to other elements, to other industries, to other hobbies, to other things. And I'm not necessarily telling you to go out there and buy yourself a woodworking kit and start like learning about it. I'm just telling you, ask questions. Find someone near you, friends of yours, friends of your friends, right, who do this kind of stuff, and just go there for a couple of minutes, for a couple of hours maybe, have a chat, and learn about what they do. Because doing that sort of stuff, like getting yourself inspired by those sort of elements, can really make you a better artist. Remember, guys, we as artists, and this is gonna sound a little bit deep. Hopefully you guys can relate to this. But one of the main reasons why we do art, one of the main reasons why we create, is because we want others to experiment what we're seeing through our creations, right? I don't think I've ever heard of an artist that only likes to create for himself. That's not the purpose of art, I think. The purpose of art is to be created and then be shared so that other people can experience that piece of art through all of the different mediums that we have, right? Film, music, again, video games, everything. So if you don't go out there and get more information for yourself, like if you don't learn about the world, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to see and perceive which are good things or cool things, which things have good design and which ones don't, and to then transform that inspiration into actual works that are going to make you stand out. And we can have another conversation maybe another time about whether it's important to stand out or not, like depending on what everyone wants to do with their art career, right? But especially in this industry, in the entertainment industry, one of the main things that are gonna get you a little bit ahead on the game is making sure that you're able to communicate your essence as an artist through your work. If you can generate that connection, like if people can see your stuff and then understand you as an artist through your work, that's going to generate the magical connection that's going to allow people to really feel that, again, sorry for the redundancy, connection to you and your work. Okay, that's how we transcend that space, right? That's how our art becomes something that not only exists but also inspires. And I hope that with this video, I know it's one of these theory videos that we normally do, but I hope with this video you get a better idea of what kind of things can really help you breach that gap, right? Like get you to that point where you're gonna be able to share your work and inspire others. Hopefully this is also inspiring you. So that's it, my friends. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it cleared out a couple of like, again, important questions that people have. If you want to check this one, by the way, this one is available on the Discord channel. There we go. So this one's available on the Discord channel. It's just a little chart here, just a little quick review. You can also go back to the YouTube video and check this video. The two videos that I would recommend now, and I'm not sure if I can place them right here, but it's this one, how to pick a project from last year, and the one that I did recently, which is the 5 things that you need to extract, or 5 layers of information that you can extract from your concept. So once you find a really good concept, you're like, this works, it fits the things that Abe talked about, and I think it's going to be a good piece for me. At that point, make sure to analyze that piece to get all of that information out before you start working on it. So that's it, my friends. If you want to help, or if this was useful to you, I'm not gonna do the whole like premium course announcement or anything. I'm just gonna tell you, if this helped you and you want to help us a little bit here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps us. We're getting really close to our next milestone, which is 30k subs. So after that, we're gonna go closer to 50k, and hey, maybe hopefully sometime not too far in the future we'll get to that 100k. So thank you, my friends. Thank you for all of your support, and I'll see you back very soon. Bye bye.